I greet you all on this cold Nairobi afternoon. Today, I want to look at Ruto's first budget, not in a technical sense. I want to look at the budget in terms of the cry of the people of Kenya. I hope I'll be able to amplify the cry from the people of this country so that their cries may reach their president. But before I do so, let me thank all of you for being good viewers, subscribers, and followers. I also apologize that last Saturday I was not able to release my regular Saturday video, which many of you always look up and wait for. On that Saturday, I was in a hospital bed. I thank those of you who supported me, who prayed for me, including those of you who felt the urge to pray for a citizen without even knowing who that citizen was, like my sister Bishop Margaret. God was directing you to pray for me. I thank you for the prayers. I'm now able to speak. Thank you very much. Today, I ask the President of the Republic of Kenya, hear the voice of your people. It's been stated over the years, over time, that the voice of the people is the voice of God. It's also been stated in holy books that ye leaders listen to the suffering of my people. It is in that context that Pharaoh was being told, let go of my people. That when kings and emperors and chiefs have oppressed the people and the people have spoken, sometimes God has spoken through prophets to soften the heart of the king. I'm not a prophet, but today I speak and urge the president that your budget is leading to this much outcry in the country. The pain that is anticipated following the passage of the finance bill at the stage it has passed. The people of this country are asking the president, please hear our voice. I repeat on their behalf that the president, please hear the voice of your people. The pain that this budget is going to introduce to the people of this country is unbearable. Are people already hurt? Are people already suffering, unable to take children to school, sleeping hungry by government's own statistics, World Bank statistics? Are people going to bed hungry in their millions? People who watch the children they took to school languish in unemployment, sometimes falling prey to drugs and alcohol. These are not the people that a sane government can propose to tax further. I persuade you, the president, that do not base your decision of whether or not to listen to the cries of the people of Kenya on two obvious things. One, the president should not base himself on the fact that he has the numbers, that the numbers have given him victory in parliament. Your Excellency, the people who gave you those numbers are not men and women of repute. The people who gave you victory in parliament are like Judas Iscariot, who for 30 pieces of silver betrayed Jesus. Those are not men and women you can count on to give you the confidence that you are right. In any case, there is always danger in majoritarianism, that every time somebody feels they have the numbers to bulldoze, they get reckless and careless. The result of that will be the pain for the people of this country. The second thing is the temptation to believe you are right, Your Excellency, merely because you may manage Raila Odinga. Perhaps the president has already figured out and has anticipated the sort of reaction that will come from Azimio. And therefore, should he succeed in turning those reactions, the demonstrations, mass action, into impotent ventures, then the temptation on the part of the president will be to believe he's right and he should soldier on. And yet, the pain that the budget will occasion to the people of this country will be so bad that having the numbers in parliament and managing Azimio and Raila may not be enough to put off whatever havoc the anger among the people will introduce. I ask the president to draw lessons from a number of sources. The first, and it shouldn't be easy for the president because he's a man of God. The first is from the Bible. The president will agree with me that there are sufficient lessons from the Bible of kings who ignored the cries of people, even when God's voice was introduced to tell the king, "Let my people go. Do not subject my people to this pain." The people who ignored the voice of God and those in the Bible, the kings in the Bible, who ignored the voice of the people, the voice of the prophets, and the prophets spoke for the people and for God. And the voice of the people is the voice of God. The Bible is full of examples of those kings who continue to subject their people to misery, against even advice from prophets. The Bible is full of examples of what happened to those kind of kings. I invite the president to draw examples from the Bible. The second source of knowledge for the president is history itself. History has recorded instances where great empires collapsed, where great kingdoms were turned into ashes. The common denominator was always intransigency, was always a case where the king refused to listen when the suffering of the people reached crescendo. When the people cried out and the king not only ignored the cries of the suffering people, of his own citizens, actually some of them doubled and they made those kind of pronouncements. Finally, as an example to the president and to the people of this country, there is nothing worse for society, especially the stability of that society and the security of the leadership, than our citizenry, than people who are now able to point at the problems they are going through. History will demonstrate this, that people have lived as slaves for hundreds of years. They have offered free labor for hundreds of years. They have subjected themselves to caning and whipping from their masters. But a time reaches when the people are able to say, we know this is why we are suffering. Our pain is occasioned by this and this and this. When that time reaches, when the people are able to identify their problems, the French Revolution comes to mind very easily. When the people are able to prepare the cahiers, a list of complaints to the king, that was the time for the collapse of the kingdom. When the American settlers were able to engage the British monarch with specific demands, top on the list, no taxation without representation. The monarch thought it was a usual joke until Boston Tea Party happened. The rest is history, because the war of independence followed and America became an independent country. In short, this budget puts the people of Kenya in a state they have never been in before, where the ordinary man and woman in the street can point 1, 2, 3 at the things that are going to occasion him pain and urge the president, their president, to do something about those things. And therefore, when the president ignores clearly identified problems and issues that is going to be painful to the people of his country, we are courting disaster. In a video I released yesterday, the first video after leaving hospital when I became better, I said sometimes the government is creating a deficit where none is necessary. Budget deficit. I said, these are bad times. Why do you increase the budget to 3.7 trillion instead of bringing it down to reflect the reality that these are hard times? We need to fasten our belts. This is not the time to begin new roads when people are sleeping hungry. And I said, and that's why I have this piece of paper, I said, if you went to a school like Olympic Primary School and gave the students a budget, the budget of this year, to remove things that are senseless, that are occasioning suffering on the people of Kenya, that the government will require to tax people to fund certain things, I will send this thing by WhatsApp by a school teacher. He told me, this are my children. Grade 7. I cannot mention the school. First, because it was during tuition hours, which is not allowed. Second, they may be victimized. Just quickly, when we are suffering, you want to tax people so that you give 3.9 billion, for example, to EACC. To do what? We all know countries that deal with corruption don't pretend with institutions like EACC. They just fight corruption. In any case, everybody knows we don't have corruption in this country. What we have is theft. You don't need 4 billion. You don't need to tax Wanjiko to raise 4 billion to give to EACC when the police can just arrest these thieves. The people who steal our money are so stupid. We have seen stories. Wengine wanabeba kwa gunia. A governor takes money and puts in the wife's account. You don't need EACC for that. So will you tax Wanjiko to raise 4 billion to give them? ODPP. Another 3.6 or something billion. These are primary school children identifying this. They are saying, how are you going to, why do you want to tax my grandmother? To raise 8 billion to give to DCI. So much money was spent on the forensic lab. That's the only one that will make sense. You need this kind of money for the forensic lab. We know how much has been spent on the forensic lab. So where is this one going? These are primary school children asking the government why you want to tax their grandfathers. Auditor General, 8 billion. These are primary school children identifying this. On corruption again, alone, how many billions are these? And I have already stated, you create systems. In the auditing is a system. You just create systems that will arrest all these thieves. I have already said you dismantle the procurement department. Let people just go to the shop and buy what has been approved. If you want to buy a Toyota Land Cruiser, we know the type. You just go to Toyota and buy it. They are listed suppliers. Toyota is not going to sell you a Land Cruiser, a model at 20 million because you are government, yet the same Land Cruiser was sold yesterday for 8 million. It will be flagged off by a system. And they will be blacklisted. They never sell any to the government. You don't need procurement. Yet you want to tax that old woman, VAT, to create money to give this office. Parliament of less than 500 men and women. Billions, tens of billions shillings. You want to give MPs something like 40 billion to go and show off, look like kings and gods by calling villagers to clap for them when they supply those CDF checks and issue bursaries of 1,000. Where I come from, I was arguing recently with my MCA. If you give 1,000 shillings bursary, what have you helped? 2,000. You are giving people 40 billion to go and show off with. Where are you getting that money from? You propose to tax the poorest of Kenyans to raise the money to give them. These are primary school kids telling me, look, 5.2 billion or something like that. The figures may be wrong here and there, but the principle is standing. 5.2 billion new markets. We all know the things we are calling markets. What are those markets? Things which nobody can shelter in them if there's rain. Anyone show me one where so you can shelter. Narrow things like this that have taken some of them years from the days of Uhuru's stimulus package. Some of them have never been. Remember how long it took the Karatina one, which by incidentally is one of the best in that project. Which market are you? Who is selling what? Those women don't need those markets because they are so poor. They rather sell the potatoes on the roadside and go home with a packet of flour than you tell them you want to tax them to create some shade when in fact it's the contractors who are going to get this money. These are primary school kids. Hustler fund, 10 billion. You can't tax people to create a fund, a Fuliza fund. Hustler fund is a Fuliza fund, where you can get 500 shillings, 1,000 shillings, 700 shillings. That's not money for business. We all agree it's a good thing. It's a good gesture from the government. Thank you for voting for me as a hustler. So when you want some small overdraft, some Fuliza, I can create a fund for you. But you are not going to create that fund by punishing the same hustler through unreasonable taxation. And this I can't believe has come from primary school children. It's 16% VAT. They have asked me to ask the finance secretary, treasury CS, how much money do you propose to get from VAT on fuel? Divide that by 2 to get the additional 8%. And ask yourself one question. These are children. Whether it is worth the trouble, an extra shilling on diesel, on petrol, the kind of ripple effect, the way it's going to affect many other things, is it worth that trouble? And they have said, ask the government to tell IMF off. A country where people are going to bed hungry, with sick ones in the home, unable to go to hospital, with children unable to go to school. A country with one of the highest and dangerous unemployment levels. A country like this cannot have a budget going up. A country like this, at this particular juncture, cannot be talking about dams. The president cannot go around the country promising people roads in an economy that is stagnant, where the only way to keep those populist promises is to borrow more, as indeed the current government is doing, and worse, to tax the people of this country, to finance populist promises, grandiose promises like dams. The people of this country, including the children of this country in primary schools, are saying we could have a better budget. And therefore, like I started, I end by saying, Mr. President, hear the cries of your people. The voice of the people, Mr. President, is the voice of God.